Historically, June has been an important month for the Supreme Court, full of decisions on major and controversial cases. It doesn't look like this June is going to be any different. So our legal expert, Whitney Traylor, is joining us to preview what we can expect from America's highest court. Thanks for coming in.
Sure.
So tell us a little bit about some of the significant cases that the court has yet to issue a ruling on.
Yeah, there's several important cases. There's actually 26 cases left to be decided.
Wow.
And June is considered decision season is what they call it. So traditionally the courts leave these biggest cases for the last month before the summer recess. So here, there's a number, I'll just go through them rapid fire. So the birthright citizenship is obviously probably the most important one. Can the president override the 14th Amendment with an executive order and overturn birthright citizenship? There's one about the future of federal independent agencies. So can the president remove the heads of those agencies when they're independent? So executive agencies are agencies that the president has control over, can definitely remove those people. Independent agencies, historically, it's been no. So the court's going to look at that. Elections and campaigns, there's an important case coming out of Mississippi where there was a law that says if it's postmarked and received within 5 days of election day, the mail-in ballot counts. That's being challenged. So that'll be a big one, and that could impact Colorado for sure. There's a case, obviously they haven't ruled on the transgender, young transgender women participating in women's sports in high school. So that's going to be an issue. And then there's a case out of Hawaii, the Second Amendment. And the question is, so Hawaii imposed a law that said you can't bring a weapon onto private property unless you have explicit permission. So that one's being challenged as well.
Okay, so recently the court ruled against the president in more than one case. There are still remaining cases that involve President Trump. You kind of mentioned a few of them.
Yes.
So talk a little bit more about those.
Well, the big one that the president lost was related to the tariffs. And the court said, no, you don't have statutory authority to just impose these tariffs, willy-nilly. The other one is, as I just mentioned, with the Lisa Cook, who's on the Board of Governors, can he just remove her? So that one is really going to deal with the notion of power. Does the executive have the power to do this? And then yeah, and so in addition, the court did give President Trump a number of victories, particularly as it related to emergency orders and those kind of things, because he used those emergency executive orders in ways that no president has ever done, and the court supported him on a lot of those.
So can cases decided by the U.S. Supreme Court be undone or reversed by any other court?
No, so the Supreme Court is the highest court in the land. And so when the Supreme Court makes a decision, it's binding on every court, state, federal, everything as it relates to that specific issue. Now, the court can reverse itself, for example, right? So you look at Brown v. Board of Education, that allowed black and white children to go to school together. That overruled Plessy versus Ferguson, which was, separate but equal. And the court said, no, it's separate but unequal. And then with the Dobbs versus Jackson case, the court overruled Roe v. Wade, which has been precedent for over 50 years. So the court itself can overrule. And Chief Justice John Roberts used to say how important precedent was and stare decisis, and he doesn't really like to overturn, but this court has overturned a couple of important cases.
So what's your takeaway from the Supreme Court this session? Are there any themes or patterns that you've seen?
Yes, I think the biggest theme is this notion of power and where the power lies. And so we're supposed to have three branches of government. They're supposed to be co-equal. There's checks and balances. That's constitutional. And here we're seeing that this administration is pushing the executive to have more power. So the question is, does the executive have these powers? Do these federal agencies have the power? And then even with state and federal, there's been a lot of state and federal cases, particularly dealing with religion in schools and those kind of things. Should that be with the states or should it be with the feds? So I think that there's definitely a theme about the power and who has it.
You said this is decision season. Is there a deadline that the decisions have to be made, and do they have to make a decision on all of them by the end of that time?
Yes, so I think there's 26 cases. We're expecting to get some decisions today, actually, and so the session ends really at the end of June. Sometimes they'll go into the first week of July before the summer break, but yes, all of these cases will be decided by then. So this court has been very consequential. This term, there's been a lot of sort of culture war type decisions. But these last cases that are set up for this month are really consequential.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. Whitney, as always, thank you so
All
much.
right.